This video is all about a project that I call the bee box. This is a project I made a number of years ago for publication in a woodworking magazine. And it's also something that, that gardeners would appreciate. This box is designed to encourage the flourishing of an insect called mason bees. They're a docile bee. They can sting, but they almost never do, so they're quite safe, and they're easy to encourage too, which means that you have an opportunity to increase the number of insect pollinators in your garden using this little house. And mason bees can be encouraged to take over from honeybees and other pollinators which seem to be in decline. So that's one reason you might want to make this. Now, the project is inspired by a professor here in Canada who has kind of championed the cause of mason bees. Her name is Marguerite Dogger-Tom, and she offers these plastic trays for sale, and that's kind of a key part of this mason bee house, as I will show you. But you buy the plastic trays, but you make everything else. In fact, these are made out of fence board material, so 1x6 cedar fence board material. Does a great job on this. But let's get right into it by looking at the plans right now. So we got a cutaway view here showing how everything fits together. I would strongly urge you to buy your trays before you start building. There really is no substitute for building something out of wood around something that you buy. Start with the something that you buy first, because it'll be terribly disappointing if you build this and find out that the trays can't fit in. It's very easy for things to get too small, even when you're working according to a plan. So save yourself some potential grief and get your trays first. The trays are interesting because you can't see it here in this drawing, but each layer is split right through the middle of the holes. So lots of layers here. And the idea there is so that you can take them apart. You can, at the end of the season, in the fall, you slide out the trays, and then you open them up, and what you're looking for are the embryonic mason bees. They're in a kind of a cocoon-like egg, and you could leave them over winter. But the hatching rate is much better if you take them out, because you see how long the tubes that are here in the tray, they go all the way along the full length, and a mason bee, female mason bee, will go all the way in, and she'll lay an egg, and then she'll seal that egg behind some mortar. That's why they're called mason bees. It's kind of a mortar that they make with mud. So you got your egg, some mud, egg, mud, egg, mud, egg, mud. So you could have quite a few eggs in there, and the ones at the back are going to have a hard time getting out when they hatch and surviving. So the idea is that when they've been laid and they're pupating, and it's that time of the year, you can open this up, and you can take the little soon-to-be mason bees, and you set them on top of this shelf, and they sit there over winter. They're protected, but notice here at the front, you see how the sides don't come right down to this inner top. There's a little gap here, and that means when the roof goes on, when the removable roof goes on, there's still a little slot here, a little opening, so that when the mason bees do finally emerge as adults, they can get out. So they'll spend the whole winter here sheltered, everything's great, and then they can fly out when they want to after they've hatched. So that's the scoop. The top, as I said, is removable. It sits on these dowel pins, but no glue. The dowel pins are sufficiently tight in the holes that it holds the lid on without falling off. Now there's a feature here which is not necessary but makes the house look much nicer, and that's, you see there's a rounded edge here on the front of this piece. Rounded edge, rounded edge, rounded edge, rounded edge all around the lid too. That's done with a router in a router table, and it really does make things look nicer. You could leave them square. If you're looking for a way to simplify this project, that's a good way to do that. Everything should be held together, everything except the lid, of course, should be held together with weatherproof glue. Regular wood glue, regular carpenter's glue, is not weatherproof, and it will go mushy and soft, and it will let go if it's exposed to moisture for a long period of time after it has dried. But there is a whole class of very similar looking glues that are called cross-linking glues. So they look just like regular wood glue. It could be yellowish or brownish in color, except after this glue has dried, a chemical change occurs, making it completely waterproof after it dries. So you get the best of all worlds. You get water cleanup while the stuff is still wet, but complete reliability when it comes to outdoor applications. So what could be better than that? Works very well. You still want to use some nails, not because you really need them so much with the glue, but it certainly does help with assembly. And you don't want to just use regular finishing nails, because they will rust, and the rust will stream down, and it'll look ugly, and you'd be surprised how quickly those nails let go, too. They just rust right through. So get yourself some stainless steel nails. They work well. They never rust. They drive just the same. It's a little thing, but makes the project much better. As far as mounting this thing goes, you'll want to mount it to a post or tree or something like that. We have ours, well, the photo you saw previously was of ours where it lives, which is screwed to the side of a bird feeder that we have in the middle of a perennial garden at our house. So you want to drive a screw up here in the top. You can take the lid off, take the top off, drive a screw in the back. You can drive a screw on the extension part of the bottom. There is enough room to drive one in up at a bit of an angle through here to stop it from flopping around. And then that's about it. You just take your trays out in the fall, do your maintenance, clean them out, get them ready for the next spring, and it's amazing how you can encourage mason bee populations in your area. I don't have any numbers on the increase, but I notice that there's more mason bee activity around than there used to be since we got our house in place. Mason bee activity is, you can see it because they'll find a little hole anywhere, and they'll lay an egg, put some other mortar in it, another egg, just like I told you before, except they'll do it in different places too. So we've got mason bees and plenty of them around here, lots of flowers. Our raspberries in our garden set fruit incredibly well, so just a nice harmonious partnering with nature, which is a wonderful thing to do with a woodworking project.